never did I think I would go and feature what they would class as a stance car, something on air ride. But this has definitely changed my opinion, because this is pure perfection. You don't get that with the new plastic era. Oh, she goes and all right, doesn't she, as well? Look at the side silhouette of this beautiful 2002. BMW really got it right back then.
Pretty much all of the money I had to buy this old, stupid car, and this stupid idea I had in my head, every part of me was thinking, what am I doing? I should be doing the sensible things, saving for a house, doing all the grown-up sort of stuff.
So let's dive in, let's talk to the owner, and let's have a look at this stunning, stunning BMW. Well, this is a driver's car. Listen to that. Oh, listen to that.
Spun up there.
Oh, it's lovely. When I first saw this in the garage, you just think pure class. The 70s performance hot hatch type car, the beautiful looks and curves, and an M42 turbo engine. This 2002 BMW Turbo is a thing of beauty. So under the engine bay is no different to the rest of the vehicle. It is absolutely stunning. So this is the M42 engine, which I'm being told is a 1.8 out of like an E30 or an E36. They didn't come turbocharged, but this has had the additional turbocharger to make around 300 horsepower. And the good thing is, when you open the bonnet, you just hit with how big that turbo is down that side, and it looks amazing. So moving on to the interior, it has these wonderful Mitsubishi Evo seats, which have been retrimmed in this lovely tartan cloth, which if you look at the colours, actually match the decals of the turbo decals of the 2002. The dash has been flocked. It has some kind of period correct gauges along the middle. It has a model of the car on the dash, the nylon motorsport gear knob, half roll cage. Moving on to obviously the wheels, the 3-piece split rims BBS, which again is that motorsport kind of style and theme with this car. And then the big thing is the air ride. So at what point does a 30-year-old lad go, I want a 76 49, 40, whatever year-old car? Where does it begin?
Well, I mean, at the time I was 25, so I was even younger. Okay. As to why I wanted one of these, I don't entirely know. I've always thought they were a really pretty shape. I love the 70s era of cars that are much more simple, much more boxy. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, not in a bad way, but a lot of people have messed about with the 6 Series and the 3 Series and, you know, like E21s, E30s. And I wanted to do something that was somewhat a bit different. And yeah, I sort of pictured this build in my head, a 2002 turbo, somewhat of what I call like a Restomod, with some, you know, BBS magnesium, like race car spec wheels and on the floor. And it just spiraled from there, really, and the search started, and there we go. I ended up with one eventually.
Oh, I love these cars. The vibrations all through them, they're great, aren't they?
Because this thing's solid mounted and half rattly and noisy, but when you're actually driving and you're going, it's not too bad.
See if it can change my opinion on air ride, see what it's like.
Hopefully.
I've never been in a car with air ride, so I don't know, I have no idea what to expect. What's the response out on the road?
Turns heads everywhere.
I can imagine it does.
I get a lot of people in likes of Fiestas try and goad me. You know, they'll sit right behind me hoping for a bit of play, and often I'll oblige. I'm like, yeah, go on then. But no, really good response on the road, a lot of thumbs up. But no, it's really nice to drive.
It seems very, very smooth. It's not what I expected from air ride. I think I was always in the impression it was going to be dead harsh and heavy, or dead wallowy like a bolt. This is definitely in between of, you would never know that it's not on shocks and springs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a firm car, but I always, you know, especially with like the type of build of the car, obviously everything's polybushed as well. I wanted something that was glued and planted to the ground, and I like that firm feeling without being jarring, you know?
Not what I expected at all. As an older guy with a bad back, because that's happens when you get in your 40s, you could do some long distance in this, couldn't you?
Oh, easy, yeah, not a problem. Like,
yeah, it doesn't. Oh, it sounds good. I'm quite impressed with that. I'm very. Now I've gone silent because I'm trying to let the man concentrate, because you don't expect a 70s car to be able to take a corner, but yeah, I'd even go as far as to say the suspension helps a little bit.
yeah, to an extent it probably does. Glad it's better than you expected.
Yes, it's miles better than what you expected. What was it, a rolling shell? How did it all begin from the start?
So the story of buying it is probably one of the coolest things about it to an extent. I found it online on an auction site. We all know which one. And ironically, I'd spoken to the guy a couple of days before, offered him some money. I don't want to sell it. He wants to let the auction run. So I'm like, oh, it's going to go for quite a few quid, I think. And I'd actually ended up travelling up to Norfolk, which is quite some distance from here, to go and look at another one being done on another auction, but in person. This one was ending about 2 p.m. and I had a cheeky bid and I won it for cheaper than I even offered him in the first place. The only downside was it was in Glasgow.
Oh.
So it was quite some way. So me and a friend, we flew over, didn't buy a return ticket, hoping that it was all good, and it made it back.
You drove this back?
Yep, we drove it back.
Okay.
So it started life as a 1502, which is like the... So with the 2002s, they did quite a few different models. They did early ones, they did a 1600. Then they started calling it the 02. They went over to 1502, 1602, 2002. And like 1502 is basically like during the oil crisis in the 70s, they made like a budget version. And that's what this was. But that's perfect foundation for me because it made the car somewhat cheaper because it was still, the foundation of the car was the same, but there was some things, like it was lacking anti-roll bars, for example. Some budget cuts were done, and I was like, not a problem. It's going to be hacked up anyway.
Yep.
And yeah, so it was the perfect base, and it was a really nice car. The paintwork on it was pretty bad, but it was overall a solid, good runner. And me and my mate drove it all the way back from Glasgow, and it didn't skip a beat. And it was one of the best experiences of my life driving first time ever driving a left-hand drive car.
Okay, right.
Through the centre of Glasgow. I was so nervous. You know, my left foot on the clutch pedal was like juddering away because I was nervous in the traffic. But now we made it, and yeah, the build commenced or started pretty much almost immediately. I was like, where do I start? I just start tearing it apart, and there you go.
Wonderful.
Here we are now.
Did at any point of that probably 400-mile trip, did you think, what am I doing?
The whole way, the whole way. It was pretty much all of the money I had to buy this old, stupid car. This stupid idea I had in my head. Every part of me was thinking, what am I doing? I should be doing the sensible things, saving for a house, doing all the grown-up sort of stuff. But now, like, you know, during that journey, you know, just like little things, like me and my mate were listening to old like 90s like tunes and stuff, and we were driving, like we drove past like the Lake District and that, and like during those periods of time I was like, this is the best decision, like this is like, I was doubting myself, but those certain points maybe come around and go, no, you know what, actually, like, this is what I want to do, and I know it's going to work out. It sounds a bit sad, but like, I'll have times in this car where I'll hop in it, and it's been a while since I've driven it, or like, I just want to have that good feeling, and I'll hop in it, I'll go for a little bit of a drive, and I'll almost like sort of well up a little bit, because it gives me that joy, you know, and it's like, I sometimes have to pinch myself, like, this is mine, I've built this, you know. Not solely myself, like, you know, some stuff's obviously been done professionally, but ultimately, like, the core of the car has been built by me and a bunch of mates, having beers in the unit, having a laugh, have a go heroes, you know. We don't know entirely what we're doing.
And that's what these cars are about.
But the older generation of cars like this, it's all just nuts and bolts, you know. You grab yourself some sockets, grab yourself some spanners, have a go, you know.
100%. This is why I want to keep this era alive for the generation to see, because this is so prettier and nicer. Yeah, it doesn't drive as good as a Mercedes A-Class or whatever, but come on, it makes you feel at one with the road.
Exactly.
It gives you that buzz, like you said, when you get in it, you just want to go for a drive and make yourself feel good. You don't get that with the new plastic era. Oh, she goes on all right, doesn't she, as well? Yeah, you don't need no more power than that. That there is exactly what you need in this car. Do not go anymore, you'll ruin it.
Exactly.
You'll ruin it.
But it's the sound it makes. And I mean, the reality is sometimes, you know, sometimes I think, Christ, you know, this has took so long to build, it means so much to me. And, you know, a Golf R could beat me around the twisties, but I'll have a bigger smile on my face.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, and like you were saying about like what's going to be a classic in the future, I can't even begin to think of where I begin of trying to restore or do anything with something modern because of how much electronic and just gadgety stuff there is. Like, how much of that's going to go wrong in 20 years' time? Where do you start?
Where can you get controllers for ABS modules for this, that, and everything else?
And like a lot of like the 90s cars that have got ABS, you just delete ABS and you put a little thing on it and it's gone off the dash. A new car's like, no,
and the engine won't run unless you've got it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the thing, and how are you going to eliminate stuff like that? But
the more years go on and the more the technology advances, the driving experience of a vehicle is taken away from you.
Yeah.
Because the car's doing a lot more for you than you are yourself.
This is like pure analog, like, you know, it's like everything is raw, like everything you input you feel. It's like there's no assist, there's nothing. But if that man in the Golf R was to hop into this, he'd end up in the hedge.
Yes.
You know, because that car is that's the reason why those cars are quick, is because they do everything for you. And that's the scary thing about some of those sort of cars is you know, you can get a modern car now, it's like 600 horsepower, but it doesn't feel 600 horsepower.
Yeah.
You know, and you look down, you're doing 120, you're like, oh, okay, you know. And obviously, yes, it's very, very illegal. We all do stupid stuff, but like that is like lose your license. In this, I only have to be doing like 60, 70, and I'm hanging on for my life at times. You know.
I see these guys said the new BMWs with the remap, you're running 800 horsepower, 800 horsepower, and you're like, just normal people are getting these cars, and they're just being thrown in the deep end. Where this is a driver's car. Listen to that. Oh, listen to that.
Spun up there.
Oh, it's lovely. So you don't need no more.
Nah.
You don't need no more than that. It's beautiful.
The only modifications that I've done aside from the genuine turbo in terms of looks is the valance is a bit lower and the arches are also a little bit lower to obviously meet perfectly, just because of it being on air ride, and I wanted to get it as close to the floor as physically possible. But otherwise it is as per the genuine turbo, and that's the cool thing about cars back in the day. It was done by hand, it was done by a bunch of guys in a factory, you know, just cutting the arches, you know, tubbing them, whatever, and then just bolting on some flares, and that was it. So we just followed the same rules apply, you know.
Fabulous. So then let's go to the engine. So it's an M42.
Yep.
2-litre turbo out of.
So it's a 1.8.
Oh, 1.8. Okay.
Yeah. So it's BMW engines always use really strange coding, but the M42 was used in the E30 and the E36. So the M42, it's a 1.8 16 valve twin cam. And they make about 140 brake horsepower stock. They're a good engine. And as it goes, the E30 that I had before buying this, the original engine that was in that was one of these. So I knew the engine quite well, and I'd done some research because I knew that I wanted to keep the car powered by a 4-cylinder. I didn't want to put a 6 or anything crazy in it. I wanted it to be a 4-cylinder turbo. And I thought, well, that's perfect because they're cheap. I know they fit really well in the O2 engine bay, and they sort of look like they're meant to be. And yeah, that's what made me go with that engine. There's been a bit of work done to obviously help, you know, retain its internals, so it doesn't absolutely like destroy itself. But only light work really, and it holds the power absolutely fine. So
what numbers? Oh, only guessing.
You know, it could be a lot more, but we're running a tame 300, give or take. It was dynoed at 298, but we've upped the boost a little bit since, and I haven't had it dynoed since. I'm guessing it's a smidge over 300. It's fun getting that essence of I could kill myself, but at the same time I don't want to kill myself. and it's at a point where it's on that fine line, I think, to an extent. If I go for much more, I think then it will just be a bit of a pain in the arse to drive.
Because it is super light.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't even had this weigh, but it's less than a ton.
Yeah.
Easily less than a ton.
Moving fullback, so is it the full E30, E36 transmission, back axle?
Yeah, so
everything.
So we managed to get the E30 5-speed gearbox off the set, the matching one from the engine to fit. We're using the E30 prop shaft. And then differential-wise is a bit of a weird one. So there's different sizes of diffs on these. You get small case and medium case. This is still a small case, which is what some people consider you're playing with fire a little bit on what it's capable of. But it's an E21, so that's the 3 Series. So that's the successor of this car, essentially. It's the E21 LSD. It was found in the 323 Sport, I think.
Okay.
And it was like, that was one of the hardest parts to find, or it was quite funny actually, because people always say these are like hen's teeth, they're so hard to find. I looked and I found one straight away in Lithuania. I was like, I'm buying it. So I had that like from pretty much the beginning, because I found it almost immediately, and I was like, I've got to get it. But yeah, it's still running the stock 2002 drive shafts and everything like that. And I mean, touch wood, fingers crossed, so far it's retaining the power through the drivetrain absolutely fine.
Is there any future plans with the car, or is this kind of like complete, we'll get on with something else, we'll just maintain it?
No, I mean, look, the car, I built it to be how I want it to be from the very beginning, and this is what I envisioned, and I don't think there's really anything different from that image I had 5 years ago. The wheels, the stripes, the colour, everything on it is, even if I do a total rehaul of it in 10, 15 years time, it will come out looking the same. There's little niggles and little things that I want to address, and there's a few things in the engine bay that I want to change, like I want to go down the route of a custom plenum and a few other things to make it look a bit nicer and unlock a little bit more flow and a little bit more horsepower. And I might maybe toy with the idea of going with some turbo fans, like like the race cars used to have, just purely to whack on at a show, just because I've always liked them and I've never had a car on them. But otherwise, no, not really. Just enjoy it.
Because it is beautiful. To be fair, I would not change a thing on it. It is stunning.
Thank you.
Like I haven't even said, I've completely forgot. It's an Italian car, so it's an Italian import. It was imported back in the UK in early 2000s, but thankfully, because it spent most of its life in a much better climate, much warmer climate, in terms of like rust and restoration, like it needed restoring, yeah, but like in terms of rust, like that's the only downside to the old stuff, is a lot of the metal can be very bad now. The good thing is you can fix it quite simply to an extent, but this was such a good like base to work with. I got super lucky, and it's just like, when like everything seems to align, like it's supposed to be the one.
Yes.
And that's part of the reason why, like, I don't think I could ever sell it. Like, there's times where I fell out of love with it. Like, I've had turbo issues, I've had ECU issues. It's even still got some quirks now, as you've experienced today, with its starting issue, which we'll get to eventually. And I put it in the garage, and it sat there for a couple of months, and I was like, I hate you.
Fall out with it.
And then next thing you know, everything's apart, and I'm like, no, I can't give in. I can't, throw in the towel just yet. I've got to see it through, and I'm so glad that I did.
Like I say, mate, there's not many cars I go and visit, and I go, I wouldn't change a thing. This is definitely one of the things where I would not change a thing on it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
It is fantastic. So when I started this journey on YouTube, never did I think I would go and feature what they class as a stance car. But this Turbo 2002 has definitely changed that opinion. The looks, the 70s styling, the little touches like with the interior cloth, the way it sits, the BBS wheels, everything about it just makes this a absolutely amazing car, and I'm so glad I took the time to come and see it. I'll sign this video off, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all on the next video.